welcome to Crafts and Crime. I'm Amy.
And I'm Elaine, and I'm still messing with my microphone.
Stop it. And as always, we have a craft and a crime.
Yeah, we did it. But we almost did it.
I know. Well, we always say this. We're always struggling. Today.
41 episodes in, and we're still having problems.
I think this is episode 45. Wait, no, we did 42, but then uploaded.
Yeah.
Because we've done other ones that weren't like episode this. I think we have is this
almost
episode 45 or something like that? Yeah. We're getting up there. Yeah, when I checked, we had 44 uploaded, so this is 45.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, we're doing it, but struggling.
Barely.
Yeah. Today has been a day. But, I mean, how often do we not have a day? Like, never.
Every day is a day.
It is. Well, being sended up on the roof. The neighbor's roof.
Luckily, awesome neighbors, so she was worried about the cat, but yeah, he was on the roof because we just let him start going outside to explore because he's the only one that refuses to stay in the house.
Yeah.
And
he'll bolt out when you open the back
exactly
door.
There's literally no point. So now at least you open the door and he doesn't trip out your feet.
Yeah,
he'll just walk out because we just gave up.
Yeah.
And yeah, he decided we have the wall, instead of, it's not a fence,
the brick wall.
It's pretty common here in California. These walls are huge cinder blocks, but they're rounded. And he decided to hop up there, and I saw him, and I was like, no. It was slow motion. I was sitting down, and it would have just scared him more, so he jumped from the wall, which is 6 feet tall on one spot. It's taller than me. He jumped from the highest point onto their roof.
Yeah.
And almost got electrocuted.
Yeah,
because again, that's another thing here. It's everyone's backyard is the old parts of town are covered in power lines. If you had a really tall pool skimmer, that happened at my in-laws' house. The amount of times that the pool skimmer handle would hit the power line. And then we found out later that those power lines were wicked illegal, and my in-laws had to pay to have the electricians do all the work.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, because they were too low. Mm-hmm. My God. Which you don't, for anyone that doesn't know, you don't ever touch power lines in any.
No.
But just touching one doesn't do anything.
No.
You have to make a full circuit by touching another one. But it doesn't matter. Things happen.
Yeah, our power lines, because we have, oh my gosh, remember when they put the new upgraded pole? Because out here we have a lot of, because it's a really old city, so we have a lot of old wood power poles, and so they're starting to upgrade them to those big.
There's a huge termite problem down here, and some kind of a wood boring beetle is taking over, so they're killing everything. And
so we have a lot of planned power outages, which is for most of the day. It's usually on by 3 or so,
but it still sucks when they turn it off at 7 in the morning.
Yeah,
you're don't open the fridge. At all.
So but when that was so freaky when they had the power lines all down low, it was crazy in your backyard. Yeah, they had to pull the truck into your backyard.
They were so lucky.
Yeah,
they plan it like that, but the way that my backyard is, we have again, this is a really typical thing in Southern California, really long in these old houses, really long driveways, and then they have full chain link opening fences for vehicles. And then they close behind, and then we have the garage. They're not connected. The garages have always been separate in these
detached,
old houses because they were made in the 50s. And so, they had to bring their big freaking power truck all the way through. That would
not have happened in my backyard.
No, they knew it. They know. They planned it this way. It's ridiculous. Oh, God, how would they have? That's insane.
They would not have been able to.
They would have had to go to one of the other neighbors.
Yeah.
But it's crazy because, you have to pay for it. They don't... The good thing my grass was crap because it was either tire truck marks throughout my entire backyard, and they tried to be really careful, but
you can only do so much.
Yeah, and they don't give a shit. Good thing I didn't have anything else planted. Or the chickens,
I know.
What
because you didn't have the chicken run back there.
No, luckily I don't think they'll have to do any work on there. But if they had to, I would totally have to pick up the chicken run and turn it,
move it
completely. Yeah. Well, I'd have to turn it from the way it's up against the fence and just pull it, turn it into the yard completely.
Yeah. Ugh. But
I have a headache.
So Binks almost electrocuted himself by sniffing the thing
power lines
on the roof. Yeah. So
it's literally like the power that comes from the house comes from a tube out of the roof. It's crazy.
It really is. And then to connect the power from the garage or from the house to the garage, that's another line. So it's all, a lot of power lines. But yeah, Binks. And it's funny because when Binks jumped up on the wall, I remember Lincoln was like, "Oh no, Binks." And you were like, "I promise you he'll be fine." And then he jumps on the roof.
Yeah. Because he was afraid he was going to fall off the wall. Well, I did promise he didn't fall off the wall.
No, he didn't. He made it down.
Yeah.
He was scared, though, but he
Oh,
made it
God.
down.
He turned into a giant puffball and ran under the house. He came out.
Yeah.
Lenore called him.
Okay.
I was like, just let him chill. He's afraid.
He's all spooked.
And then, so I was like, just leave the door closed so he doesn't hear any noise from the house. And then call him in a little while. And she did. And he came out and he was all thirsty and hungry and scared.
I bet.
It was literally less than an hour of a debacle. And he was like, hopefully he'll never do it again, though.
Yeah.
Because he realized it's like the little kid that unfortunately touches the hot thing and then they don't anymore.
Yeah, I don't think any
He
of my
seemed
cats
terrified.
jumped up on the roof. Well, any of my cats. 2 of my cats go outside. But yeah, Kiki wouldn't be able to even if she tried.
Yeah.
She's gonna be 15 in
I don't think Johnny
next month.
Johnny, the only thing he wants to do when he goes out is he just wants to lay down in the sun
Yeah.
and roll around.
I know, that's Kiki.
And it's sad because like I can't let him. He's the one that has the kitty AIDS.
Yeah.
And so his feline immunodeficiency virus. So we used to let him go out. You know, if you're new, we've talked about this before, but we used to let him go outside and now he can't because it's
sick.
a complete depletion of the immune system, like a human with HIV or AIDS. And so like he the last bout of sickness that he has, he really hasn't recovered from. He's still very wheezy and boogery and he's still super skinny. So I'm gonna buy him this ridiculously expensive cat food. It's a weight gainer. And I also have found a goat's milk powder supplement.
Oh, okay.
And so it's like I think it's like 1 tablespoon to just like a few ounces of water because obviously they're not going to drink that much. So you do the warm water and it has a bunch of probiotics and vitamins and stuff, and the probiotics will help from his gut to help build his immune system. He's like an old man, and he's only about 4. I mean, I guess that's unfortunately middle-aged-ish. So but I mean, you know, we're like he's happy, he's cuddly, he's always purring, he's eating and going to the bathroom, but he's just like he's just so frail now. And it's so sad.
But
he used
even
to be
like
a little puffy polar bear,
you know. But even like Kiki, she's old. Man, can she be feisty today? Because I had
the grumpy old lady.
The sheets on the ground that had the bleach on it, and she was like sniffing it, and I went to go shoo her away, and she attacked my slipper.
She's like, "You let me smell what I want to smell. I'm old.
And so,
I'm your elder."
She is so old. Like I said, she's going to be 15 on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
And she's at that age where like I don't know, she's been sleeping in weird positions. And so she's at the age where you gotta like check if she's breathing.
Yeah.
She sleeps.
No, I totally get it.
Because she likes to sleep in the bathroom on the towels. And so she's been sleeping in really weird positions where like her neck's all turned weird, or like her face is in the wall, and you're like, what are you doing? And and you stare at her like, is she breathing? And it's like, oh, okay, she's breathing. So,
it is. I can't even imagine. Like,
yeah, I've never had a cat live this long, so I'm like, but I'm like, I hope she just hangs on forever.
Forever and ever.
Forever.
She will.
Yeah, she can't die.
Yeah.
She's gonna live forever.
Forever.
She was the first cat that we got as like a family. She's our family cat, and my kids don't know life without her.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so she got feisty today.
That's good.
Yeah, it is good. She's got some spunk in her.
Does she still try to go outside?
Yeah. So, that's what I started. She'll go outside and then she'll like go in the sun for a second and then immediately come back in.
She's like, I changed
5
my mind.
minutes later,
Yeah.
she's like, I don't like it out here.
She was just getting her.
I
dose
swear
of
she's
sunshine.
got like kitty dementia. Like she will
might.
like either that or like her eyesight or her hearing's failing or something. But it's like she forgets. Like she wants to go outside and then she's like, oh yeah, I hate this. Let me go back inside. Like she doesn't like to go out anymore.
Yeah.
But she still begs to go outside.
She just wants to breathe in some fresh air for a second.
Yeah.
She'll get away from these damn kids.
I know.
Getting some sun. Like all of us, they need vitamin D and stuff for their bones too.
Yeah.
So she's just getting her sunshine and then comes in.
Oh, I'm still all lightheaded from the bleach. Damn kids got the bleach spray for the bathroom and sprayed it on the wall, and it was like,
that's
crazy. Why? They've never gotten into that, so now we have to do a whole new setup. I'm like, and it was Lincoln that got it, and he's 6. Like, what the heck, dude? So. Anyways, okay, I guess we should move on to the actual content of the show. So, this was my mom's idea for my craft because I'm doing the craft. And so I read it to her today when I was on FaceTime with her. So, anyway, so I am doing decoupage.
Yay!
So I was like, it was one of those where I'm like, oh, hopefully you didn't do decoupage this week or something because you did paper mache and it's kind of in that same category, family. So decoupage is derived from the French word decouper, meaning to cut out or to cut from something. And it's an art that involves decorating an object by gluing colored paper cutouts onto it. And you can also use like special paint and gold leaf and whatever. Many famous people, this is new to me. I love it when I learn something new. Many famous people in history have decoupaged, such as Marie Antoinette, Madame de Pompadour, Lord Byron, Beau Brummel, Matisse, and Picasso. So then, of course, the history of it. The origins can be traced back to East Siberia, where nomadic tribes used cutout felts to decorate the tombs of their deceased. Aww. And then this practice then moved over to China by around the 12th century. And peasants created paper cutouts in like really pretty colors to decorate windows, lanterns, gift boxes, and like a bunch of other stuff. So this Chinese practice spread also to Poland. So you're Polish, right?
Yeah. I'm more Polish than anything else.
Yeah. So this, spread to Poland, and mostly for women and children. They would just cut out their really colorful folded papers into geometric shapes, birds, animals, and flowers. So in Europe, the art form gained popularity in the 17th century, especially in France. And so the demand for, it was called Oriental lacquered objects because, like I said, this did originate in China, this art. Well, the demand for it was way more than the supply. So Venetian cabinet makers and lacquers, sorry, my notes are all backwards. They basically made fake lacquer work because they couldn't do the real thing because they just had to pump it out, I guess. So this was known as lacca contrafata, or counterfeit lacquer. And this is how they would do it. They would hand color prints and engravings of the leading artists that, the demand was for their art, but you couldn't do that. So then they would then cut it out, paste it onto a surface, and then cover it with a bunch of lacquer. So it was like the knockoff,
It's like a Fendi purse out of a trunk in Hollywood.
Yes.
From some tweaker.
So it was counterfeit lacquer because it was like all the rage, but then like they couldn't keep up with it.
Right.
So, of course, around this time, if you got a lot of money, people would get master painters to come in and paint their houses with art. So those who couldn't afford all these paintings of the masters cut out and glued down their, they would cut out the picture of it and do the same thing. And they would cover it with lacquer to resemble the original paintings. And this was given the term l'art del povero, or poor man's art. So
it's very self-explanatory.
Yeah. So, then during the 18th and 19th centuries, decoupage just took off throughout Europe, and it was used as a means of decorating bookcases, cabinets, and other pieces of furniture. And I was thinking really cabinets, but then think of like a china cabinet or something that's like really pretty decorated, painted. You could totally decoupage that with like cut out whatever. So, so women would cut out pictures and paste them onto like hat boxes, wig stands, fire screens, toiletry objects, like picture like a hairbrush, the back of a hairbrush. So,
and then it'd be like unique to you too. It's just yours.
You're the only one with a hairbrush like that, with those pictures on it. So, so this I thought was interesting. A woman named Mrs. Mary Delaney lived in England from 1700 to 1788. And she was actually a confidant of King George III and Queen Charlotte. Sorry. And get this, at the age of 71, she started making botanically accurate reproductions of plants and flowers.
Fun.
And she would do this by like cutting up really fine tissue paper, and it's really pretty. And you can actually see her work today in the British Museum. But she called these creations that she made paper mosaics, because she's just like piecing together pieces of paper and then lacquering over it. She actually created 1,700 decoupage pieces. And she made these like all the way up until she died at the age of 88. And during this time, 71 to 88 years old, and her like eyesight was failing, but she just kept going.
Can you imagine finding your niche so old in your life? You'd probably be like, damn it, why didn't I figure this out like when I was 20? That's fun though.
But it's
I love
just
that.
It is never too late.
You want to do it,
something.
do it.
Do it now. Yeah. So many women in the 18th century, so mostly women were doing this, but also artists and stuff. But in 18th century England, they were cutting out images and lacquering, and this skill was known in England as Japanning, I think, because it just came from Asia. I don't know why they did Japanning. So in 1760, London printer Robert Sayer created a book called The Lady's Amusement, or The Art of Japanning Made Easy. Like I said, mostly women did it. It's like little crafts and stuff. Make pretty papers and glue and stuff. So this book that he made had 1,500 illustrations and had instructions on how to color, glue down, varnish, and polish those cutouts. So he would cut out from the book. And this I thought was interesting. In 19th century England, during the Victorian era, Valentine cards were introduced, and I think this episode comes out like right around Valentine's Day.
Oh,
I don't know. Where's my phone? I'm holding it. But so this is where pretty papers were being created for Valentine's Day cards, and so they would use those pretty decorative papers to put it on screens, lamp bases, linen boxes, everything. So the traditional technique, which I didn't know this, I'm thinking like, they just like slap some varnish on it and, called it a day. No, it used 30 to 40 layers. So like multiple layers. Then it was sanded to a polish finish. So it's not like today, which I'll get into. It was like a process. So now we use something that's like an all-in-one sealer, glue and finish for decoupage, Mod Podge, basically. You could just get Mod Podge at I can never say that, Mod Podge at any craft store, really, and just do it yourself. So I am going to tell everyone how to decoupage. So you choose your item. So let's say like a box, because I actually had a box that my friend Lindsay made me when we were like the girls' age. And she took pictures of us, and I got rid of it a long time ago. I had it when we lived here, but I had to finally just like get rid of stuff. But she took pictures and like magazine things and put it all over this jewelry box and then Mod Podged over it.
Cute.
So let's say a box, you're going to then find a picture source. So this could be, like I said, pictures. My mom, so she did this with the kids, and it's a really cute idea. She had some really pretty napkins.
Yeah.
And so she peeled the decorative top part off, took a terracotta pot, and then just Mod Podged over it, and then made like a little planter pot to put flowers in. So yeah, anything, you could think of. You could do photographs. You could do, the seed packages, how they have like really pretty flowers, or like, where it's all drawn. You could do that, like anything. Then you're going to cut it out, or you could tear it apart. Like, like I was saying, the botanically accurate ones that Mary did, it was like tissue paper. So she like created it before she lacquered over it. Then you're going to apply glue to the base, and then stick the paper onto that. So like if you have your box, you put glue down so everything sticks to it. Let that dry. And then if you want to paint it, you can paint it or add little details around it. And then you put your top coat on, like Mod Podge. You just spread it all over. and then you can add, rhinestones or whatever if you want to get fancy with it. And that's it. It's a really easy craft to do with kids. Like I said, Valentine's Day, I'm like, oh, you can get like cute Valentine's Day cards and do like a box or something. I don't know. Or like you could really, decoupage almost anything. So anyways, that's pretty much how you do it. And now I have a couple, well, it's not really fun facts. It's just like fun, interesting people. My microphone keeps like
Both
making a noise.
Mine was the last episode. And
Mine's like
now
bouncing.
I finally just held still.
Mine, I think, was getting stuck on my hand and I move when I talk.
Oh.
So, J. Terry Jones is a notable, the word, I'm like, decoupager? No, decouper. Maybe decouper, because
Decouper sounds right to me.
Decouper.
I don't think I've seen the word though.
So it's just deco and then ooper.
Do that again.
It's just deco and then ooper. So decouper.
Sounds right.
Yeah. So he's from Waynesburg, Pennsylvania, and he actually holds multiple Guinness World Records for his decoupage collection.
Fun. Does he do them himself or he collects them?
Yeah. I think he collects them. No. He does them. He's decouper.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Decouper.
Deco ooper.
It's a deco ooper. So he does it, and then he has a big collection. So I don't know if he collects them too, but I'm like, I gotta get Troy's Guinness World Records and take a look and see if I can find him. So his name is J. Terry Jones. Like Terry, I think he goes by the name Terry. Okay, so then Richard Basile is a well-known New York art collector and entrepreneur, and he achieved notoriety as a decouper, when his floral decorative work was displayed in, I'm not going to say it, it's a art festival in Paris in 2014. And he worked on his decoupage
naked.
No. Well, maybe.
Sorry, but it just seemed like this funny build-up.
It's like, no, I thought this was funny because it's like he's this famous like art collector and art entrepreneur and stuff in New York, but his whole decoupage career, I guess, he was working in the basement study of his parents' New England home. So he did this all in the basement. So you don't have to be like, he's doing it. He's like, I don't need a studio. I'm going to do it in my parents' basement.
You know what? I'm going to show this off and I will post it on Instagram. I don't know if you remember this because I just grabbed it from my Facebook. I think it was like, I had just moved into the apartment. So it was like 11 years ago. Okay. At least. So I decoupaged this plate.
Pretty.
Each of those, post that. Each of those rosebuds are cut out by hand. It's called fussy cutting in scrapbooking. It's from a piece of tissue paper that you pack a present with. I got it from the dollar store.
Pretty.
And I got the plate from the dollar store too.
Yeah.
And I wanted to throw this plate across the room when I was done. But yeah, I hand cut out every single one of the flower arrangements. So some of them, like I'm showing Amy with my hands, but like some of them were that big and some of them were little because it was like the decorative pattern of the tissue paper. And I had yellow and I had planned to do like a whole set of the pink and the yellow roses. These are tea roses on a big like dinner plate. This is a dinner plate.
Oh, okay.
After I did that one, I was like, hell no. I couldn't. And then I did the Mod Podge and another layer of just plain tissue paper over the back. So it turned the plate like a frosty transparent. I never used it. I don't even know if I still have it. Now I'm like, oh no. I worked so hard. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really pretty.
Thank you.
Yeah, decoupage is like it's really easy.
And anybody girl, shut up. Anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it because it's really easy.
When you were talking about the mosaic paper project that the older woman
Mary did.
Yes. I was immediately taken back to, gosh, I don't know if it was third grade with Mrs. Payne or fourth grade with Mrs. O'Neill. It was probably Mrs. Payne. I don't know. Anyway, and we did one and they had brought in a ton of wallpaper samples for us to work with. And that was like my jam. I was so excited. And I remember we had to do an assignment first, which was we had to make a paper mosaic of our like a portrait. And that was so fun. And then the next one was like we could do free art, and I've always done very abstract art. My art teacher in high school hated it, and she just didn't like abstract. So I was like, I'm not good with stuff like that. I don't draw. And so a lot of kids were like drawing things and then like doing a sun in the corner or whatever. So I just ended up doing this like almost like a wave pattern, like a river with rock. It looked very naturalistic, but yeah, we were like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
I remember it being really fun though. And the wallpaper samples were so cool because it was just like remnant samples, you know, that my teacher collected. You know, she probably dug them out of the trash. You know how art people are.
Yeah.
And I just loved them. Like there were so many textures and they were shimmery. And I mean, I would never put that wallpaper in my house. But it was so pretty. I loved it.
Yeah. Real quick, I'm going to post one of her decoupage arts, but you could kind of scroll through, and this is what she did.
Get the fuck
I know.
out of here.
It's pretty amazing. And she was 71 when she started doing this.
Oh,
she
I love
made
that passion
so
flower.
Me too.
And
She
these are
made
with
so
tissue
many.
paper. Like I had
Like
the
just-
flowers, like, but she cut out each individual.
Yeah. That was just one of the things,
my
but she
God.
colored them first. So it was like very
Wow.
thin paper, and she would color it and then assemble it.
Get out of
to
here.
They look like real, like accurate.
Yeah.
They are. Well, they are botanically accurate.
That's amazing.
They're really pretty. I'll post a few because there's so many.
We post
She
all
has,
of them.
I know. She has like a whole book, and I want it. I really want it now. It's there's a few. Mrs. Delaney, Her Life and Her Flowers, and then The Paper Garden. I kind of want that one. Yeah, there's a lot, but I'm like, oh, that's a good like coffee table book. And then I know the story behind it.
That is really
fun. Here there was a picture of her.
It's interesting because like crepe
It's hard to see, but
I have a hard time saying that word
because it was like a long time, 1700s or what? 1700? No, I can't remember. I'm like, yeah.
The like right now I know a craft that's taking off is like crepe paper flowers, and that was a thing that they used to do I think in like the 70s. I honestly don't think it's enough of a subject for us to cover too much because I think it's pretty new age, but and I love that, and I was like, I don't need nothing else, especially because like it's not even expensive. It reminds me of paper quilling that I've covered because the it's just like crepe paper, like squares, long rectangles, big rectangles, you know, it depends if you want to make them. I was like, I want to make a big giant one and make the craft room look like Alice in Wonderland. Okay. We ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So, we kind of say this all the time. It's like sometimes you just hit a moment where I'm like, I struggled so hard to find a subject to cover, you know, because after like
Your
I had
crime?
because my
Or
crime,
both?
yeah, both of them. But I kind of kept going back and forth because I had like the body brokering lined up, so
Yes.
you know, like I'm solid for another couple weeks.
Yeah.
But after that, I really struggled, and I kept finding ones. I was like, okay, maybe I'll do this, and then I won't. And then I found this, and I was like, what the hell? I'm from Oregon. How had I never heard of this before? So this is going to be the case of Susan Monica.
Okay.
She was born in California on July 8th in 1948.
Okay.
And she was a Vietnam veteran in the U.S. Navy, and she got honorably discharged and wanted a calm life. But she ended up becoming a really successful engineer for a while and decided in 91 that she was just ready to be left alone.
Okay.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. I'm
And so
I
she
kinda feel
moved.
like that now.
Yeah, I know. And so she moved to a rural town in Oregon called Weimar, which is in Jackson County, and she got herself like 20 acres. And it was she did have neighbors, but they weren't super duper close. But the property went backwards.
Okay.
So she did have neighbors on the sides of her.
It kind of sounds
And-
like what I would do. Just leave me alone and let me go buy my 20 acres.
Exactly. And that she was going to get her dream now, just to have a peaceful, quiet farm life. And I'm like, hell yeah, I want
That's
that.
what I want.
I do too. I do too. And you can't have it down here.
Nope.
You have to move. It's
Yeah.
impossible. Even if you were a millionaire, like there's not property available down here.
No.
You just can't. So, she ended up raising mainly pigs, but she had chickens and other animals too. And she owned a, successful enough to keep her going company called the White Queen Construction. And they did, like wrought iron fences and gates. And so because it was just her, she was not married, she didn't have children, because it was just her and she wanted to expand on her farm, she would hire passers through, transients, and from Craigslist. She would put ads up to get help from there, from handymen.
This is in the 90s, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Because she moved there in 90.
I'm like, I was just thrown because it's like she was born in the 40s, but
right,
I'm like, wait, Craigslist?
She's
Craigslist.
She's like up in her age.
Okay,
she's already in her 50s
okay.
when she had started with her farm. And so she would hire these handymen, and because, you know, she was a bigger, taller lady, but it was just her. You cannot do everything on your own with a farm and stuff. So she needed the help. And she would pay them half in cash, and then the other half was room and board. They got to stay in the property, and there was a large barn that was built, and so there were like rooms in that section. You know, not like a dirty, stinky barn, but it's still a barn. And so it was pretty typical that these workers would hang around just for a few months. They would leave, and that was it. And she would never hear from them again because they just were coming through town, most of them. And, you know, so this was completely normal for her. And in April of 2013, she had placed an ad on Craigslist for some farmhand help. And she was contacted by Robert Haney, who was 56 years old. And he was actually a carpenter and kind of a man of all trades, you know. And so he was really looking forward to having work and living on a peaceful, quiet property. And so he got the same deal as everybody else, half cash, half room and board. But he did bring his own trailer with him. He had a vehicle and a trailer, like one of those little teeny tiny trailers that barely just covers the bed of a truck and over the top.
Okay. Yeah, I know exactly
so you just hitch it to the pull ball in the back. It's real small. And so this was great for him. He was there for about 6 months, and it was in September of the same year. After working for about 6 months, he had told Susan, one of his relatives had been assaulted, and he started to really mentally struggle, and he was like, I have to go. And I have to try to handle this as best as I can.
Yeah.
And so he was going to leave the property to go, you know, take care of business. And after a couple of months, his family hadn't heard from Robert and his children. It was a son and a daughter, but I only got the son's name. It was Bobby, Robert Jr. Showed up to the farm. And Susan had told him, you know, what she had heard, what the story was, and that he left. And they were like, okay, well, this is kind of weird. Do you mind if we look around? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. They go check his trailer because it's still on the property.
Okay.
And like a lot of his things are there, stuff that most people would take if they were going to leave, including a favorite leather jacket of his and his dog. And she says, well, you know, he didn't leave by himself. So I assumed if he didn't leave on his own, he probably was planning on coming back. They think he only went to Ashland, Oregon, which is another town in like mid-central Oregon.
Oh, okay.
Not far away, within driving distance. So she assumed, well, he left his dog and his shit here. He's coming back.
He's gonna be back, yeah.
And so they're like, okay, I mean, everything looks fine. There's literally no reason. This isn't out of the norm for him to just take off, but it's not super common for him to not get a hold of them. So they do file a missing persons report with Jackson County Sheriff's Department, and then they leave because they're just like, okay, thanks for the information that you gave us, and they peace out. On January 10th, 2014, an officer comes with a warrant to investigate Susan's property, not because of Robert being gone, but because of a fraudulent use of an Oregon Trail card, which is an electronic benefits card, which so for people outside of the United States, it's a welfare program that the United States does. You don't always have to have children to be able to receive the benefits of like cash help and stuff. And so for Oregon specifically, it's called the Oregon Trail card, and it's a plastic card. It looks like a Visa debit credit card, you know. And so so this is what they're doing. Well, because the abuse of that is a federal crime. That's money from the government. So, you know, they're coming to check what's going on.
That's weird that they would like search her property. Oh, whatever.
Yeah, right.
Like,
I know. But federal crimes gives them because like she could lie and be like, I don't have that card. So they want to check her belongings to see if she has it. Because it counts as identity theft. Oh. So it's crazy. People don't realize that, but it's a serious, very fraudulent thing to do. So, of course, the officer is talking to her and she's like, okay, it's interesting. This card has been used at a Walmart recently. It was in December that the card had been used. And it's from a man that's supposed to be missing. So we're wondering, like, was he the one that used it? But they're pretty sure it's not, So as the officer is walking around the property, just kind of glancing around, he finds a leg.
What?
A human leg.
What?
Yep, from about mid-femur down to the toes. Just a few feet away behind the pig pen. And so it's like on the back end of the property, off to the side by a forest line. So the officer's looking around and he sees like other little chunks of what looks like bone, like little tiny, on the outside of of that. And so he's like, holy shit, this is something going on. What is happening? So she's brought in for questioning. Obviously, there's a leg on her property.
Yeah.
And so she is arrested for the she's actually not arrested because of the leg. She's arrested first because of the identity theft issue. Yeah. And so obviously she's now being brought in and held for questioning. And the questioning starts with Detective Henderson and Detective Fox. This is going to be really similar to the way that I got the case because we got all the players right here, right now. And so I kind of like this. It's a good flow through.
Oh my gosh, sorry.
Kids He's are all in the squeaky.
Back. I think that's Lily.
So, she's asked about the card and Susan admits to using it. She had it for several months because Robert had given her permission to use it on the days that he didn't want to go into town.
Okay.
She would say like, hey, he would tell her like, hey, can you get me beer and so because you can't use beer on electronic benefits. Yeah. So she would buy the beer and then she would use his card
for food.
Which is illegal.
Yeah.
You can't. That's called selling food stamps down here. So, and they're like, okay, well, that's not technically allowed, but hey, the reality is if I had the flu really bad and I had a benefits card, I'd be like, Amy, can you please take this and like buy me some, I need crackers and whatever. So like, you can technically give someone permission, but this dude's missing.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to.
You probably have to add it on.
You add it on as an approved person to use it or something.
That's weird. But what if you didn't have anybody till like the last minute?
I don't know. That's weird.
So they have now started asking her about all the people that have lived with her the last year. Of course, they got to talk to everybody. So they bring in a man that used to work for Susan. His name is Michael Bales. And he's immediately very cooperative, ready. He's talking. His body language looks fine. He's answering all the questions. He explains that he met Susan through one of his friends in town, whose name is Brady Murray. And Brady and her were closer friends than Michael was. And so he was like, okay, well, I trust you, so this is cool. And he was living on the property. He needed a job and a place to stay, and she was more than happy to help that out. She had no problem with bringing in people who had criminal records.
Almost seems kind of dangerous.
I know, but
like, when you're all alone,
I guess,
a woman all alone.
And so so she would try to give those who were down a hand up because everybody deserves that in her mind. So he was there for about 3 months, and he was there at the same time that Robert was there too. He said that she was really, really nice in the beginning. This is Michael still. She was really nice in the beginning, but then all of a sudden she just kind of flipped and turned not nice. Like the niceness was a facade. And that his exact words were that she was a fucking weirdo. and that she would be tending to yell. She got mad easily, just like it was off and on. But not everybody she treated that way, because our friend Brady said that she wasn't like that at all.
Okay.
So, maybe she just treated the help a little meaner. I don't know, So he said that she had said that oh my gosh. Yeah. Sorry, I'm reading off a laptop. This is like the first time I think I've done it. So
I haven't even read off a laptop.
It didn't load over and I didn't want to trust my phone.
Yeah.
So he said that Susan and Robert fought constantly. And because she would say that Robert was lazy and that he never did any work and he would sleep until noon and stuff. He's kind of like, I get the work done. What's the problem?
On my own time.
Right. I guess so. Yeah. But that Robert was also saying that Susan wanted him to work for like practically no money. Just like, be happy I'm letting you stay here, which like he's living in a room in the barn, but he also has his own little trailer too. Yeah. So like what, like $100 for my trailer to be plopped here?
Yeah.
Because I did see a picture of his trailer and it doesn't look like it's hooked up to electricity or anything. So anyway, one of the interesting facts that we will get to a little bit was just that she will mention that her and Robert weren't friends either, or that they didn't talk at all, and that there would be times that they wouldn't see each other. But Michael just said that they would fight almost every day. So maybe she just doesn't want to seem like she's an asshole to somebody that's missing. I can understand that too. But one of the things that Michael talks about with her character is that she makes really weird jokes. Like, she's just odd. She seems like she has no social skills. Very monotone, she is odd. She's an odd bird in general when you're just seeing her, but I mean, some people are. Yeah. And he says that one of the jokes she made, which he feels was totally in as a joke, and he laughed even though he hated it, was that at one point, because Susan is a big lady and Michael seems pretty short. I see him sitting in a chair in an interview and he seems really quite short. And so as a joke, she picked him up real quick under his arms and dangled him over the pig pen because he was afraid of them. And she was like, laughing, whatever. But he thought it was funny too. So she was just kind of like, her sense of humor was kind of crappy. Yeah. But
weren't we talking about that the other day where it's like, yeah, you think it's funny, but it's not.
Yeah. So, he... him being afraid of the pigs, but he did still take it in stride. But then he also said that one time she mentioned how she was curious as to how long it would take to have her pigs eat a whole human body. Yeah. And, that's not really like, I've never been like, I wonder how long it would take for my chickens to eat someone that's dead. Because they totally would. They would. But yeah, that's like the average person isn't thinking stuff like that. So he says that when she said it, she didn't seem like mad. She didn't seem anything. Just so like, I just wonder what, it's such a ridiculous thing. But eventually Michael does say, in their interrogation asking, so like, did Robert ever talk about Susan? Was there any issues like that? And he's like, well, he does remember one time that he said that Robert was telling Michael that he was afraid someday Susan was going to kill her, and that he was hoping that
kill him.
Sorry, yeah. That she was going to kill him. Sorry, and he was hoping his children would be able to like pick up his stuff and his dog, and he really was concerned because they were fighting all the time. But Michael had never seen any indication that she had said she was going to kill him or anything like that. So they're thinking, okay, this is really interesting. We're going to pull in Brady now. We're going to get his side. He's a close friend of Susan's. So he's brought in for questioning, and he immediately seems like he's drunk. He seems weird. He's like stuttering. So I'm kind of interested. Like, he's not being investigated or anything. They're just talking to him. But like, I don't know if anything he could say would be taken seriously, like by a standard of, investigation by police. Cause he's hammered. He's weird. Yeah. Like, he's weird too. All these people are kind of weird. Yeah. Everybody's weird. So, he has been he was a neighbor of hers, and he was friends with Susan, he said, for about 8 years or so, and that he had lived on her property off and on when he would have like familial problems. They don't go into that, but I'm thinking maybe wife problems, something. But that they were completely just platonic friends. He never mentions her as being a best friend, but just like, good friends that hang out and they talk and stuff. And so completely on the opposite side of what Michael had said, Brady says that, Susan told him that Robert was a really hard worker and a really good guy, and that he had never met him before, but he told the story the same way that Susan had said, which was that, a family member, and he's like slurring through, he says like a daughter, a cousin, niece had been assaulted, and that he was gonna and that he was gonna take off. But after that, he says something really, really weird, because they're talking to him about what they think may be going on a little bit, without giving away any details, of course. And he says something really strange, quote, because I watched almost 3 hours of like the interrogation. And it'll be in my sources, but so yeah, it's quoted. "I really can't imagine her doing it." The investigator then asks him, like, "What do you mean, like, doing what?" And again, quoted, "The murder." Then he kind of stutters. "The guy with the missing family." Or.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, and they're like, okay, the investigator immediately shifts with, "Excuse me, murder? We didn't say anything about a murder." And he's like, well, that's, he's like, well, the cops are here. We're worst case scenario. That's pretty much what I'm assuming. It's weird, right? So
not like we're here just to talk about a missing person.
Exactly. And like identity fraud.
Yeah.
So, but he says the same thing, this recurring theme that Susan has made really weird jokes about feeding someone to her pigs. And a neighbor has said that she said this, and Brady has actually heard her say it himself. He also seems, though, to kind of be like making excuses for her character, like saying random things like that she's just kind of weird, but that she's a good person.
Okay.
She's a good person. She's really helpful, which she is. She does. She's helped, a lot of people over the years. So he just seems really upset, and he seems really nervous, but he's a really good friend of hers. So he's just nervous that she possibly could have had something to do with someone's disappearance. That would make anybody uncomfortable. The possibility that one of your friends that you've known for 8 years could have done something. So he knows something's going on. But then he reiterates her again. "I really don't see her doing this." The investigator kind of just backtracks to mentioning, Brady mentioning murder. Like, we never even said that. Why would you bring that up? Like, what would you have made? Sorry. What would have even made you think that? Because we didn't say it. And again, in quote, "Why wouldn't you think she may have done it? For heaven's sakes, he's missing, and it was on her property."
It?
He's not been told anything was found on the property.
Yeah.
Nothing.
He knows more.
Nothing at all.
Yeah.
So.
It, like the leg that he knows about.
Yeah. So at this point, the investigators, like, we don't go back and forth to Brady very much until like the end of their interview. And so, this is in tandem on other sides. So in this same point, Susan is made aware that they have found a leg on her property, because up until this point they haven't told her.
Yeah.
So now they're asking, like, "Hey, how did this get here? Could it possibly be Robert's?" And she said, "Well, I mean, I don't know. It could be, but I would have no idea how it could have gotten there. He's missing." So, and she's kind of chuckling. She's being weird, but we already have multiple people saying that she's a weirdo, and she has a terrible sense of humor, and she's given off a vibe that she's odd,
Yeah.
So she explains that, she has made jokes about feeding someone to her pigs. And investigators like keep pushing her, like, why would there be a leg on her property? But at this point, she actually still doesn't believe them that they have found anything. Because she actually likes crime shows a lot, and so she doesn't really believe them. And they're Detective Fox. These are still Detective Henderson and Detective Fox. Detective Henderson was the one who took over most of this.
Okay.
And Detective Fox we see out of frame most of the time until the end if you do watch the interrogation, which it's long, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
So Detective Fox starts going right back into continuing to question her because, if you keep asking them the same things, they're going to slip up. That's how it works. So he starts playing into the fact like, yes, look, it's really, I promise you, it's a human leg. And then they show her a picture and she's like, yep, that's a leg. All right. And they start to kind of, she is smart. Obviously, you can't be successful in the Navy and be an engineer and a business person without being smart. And so they're like, look, I understand you're a super logical person. Therefore, there are a lot of possibilities of how this could get here. But like, how do you think it could possibly have gotten here? They're just trying to pull her back. And he's like, well, there's a possibility. Like, he could have died somewhere on the property. He was an alcoholic. And so could he have died because there's a gully that like goes off a cliff. And, Oregon has a lot of animals, everything. Like, we used to go target shooting and there would literally be like a cougar, which is a mountain lion, whatever, by us. We would see it. We'd go fishing and you'd see it. Like bobcats, like all that's normal. I've never seen a bear though.
Oh,
but there
really?
are bears. Yeah, I've never seen a bear in the wild, but there are. So I do think there's wolves, but they're very spread out. But there's coyotes. Like there's more than enough things that can scatter a human
all the time here.
It's real. It's funny because Kurt says he does, and I was like, I am not ever outside in the right amount of time, I guess. So she's saying that, someone could have died on the property and like an animal dragged him, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
drug him right over to the pig pen.
Exactly. But then she's like, if I would kill him, like, why would I just leave him there on my property, like close by? Like, because that's weird. And she does have neighbors. Like, she's not, like I said, the property goes back. 20 acres back, not to the sides. So, they're like, well, I don't really know. Why does anybody do any of these weird things?
Yeah.
In another, like, set of questions that they're going to get to, Detective Fox asks her, like, has anyone else ever just left really abruptly after, like, living and taking up some residence at your farm? And, like, she says no. And he lets her know, well, the thing is because we have to take forensic evidence of your entire property. My God, can you imagine how long that would take? 20 acres. And she had, like, her whole house. And then the barn was massive. And then there's the trailer. So there's like so many structures that they have to check. And so they're, this is normal. They're like, whose DNA are we going to find? Like, who has been living there long enough that we're going to find? So obviously there's going to be like Eric's and there's going to be Brady's. I'm sorry, Michael. Why did I say Eric? Was his name Michael Eric's? Anyway, Eric. I'm tired. So, there's going to be these other people's DNA.
Yeah.
And so this is something that she says, well, hey, there was only one other person about a year ago. He was an Asian guy named Pong, I think is how she says it. But that she's heard from him a few months ago. And then she's like, haha, you better go find him to make sure he's not dead.
Oh my gosh.
Like, what is going
this lady
on?
Is odd.
Right? She really is. She really is super strange. So they're like, okay, but they have made some jokes with her too. So they're comfortable enough. So she's getting these weird jokes, which is again another reason why interrogations like hers is going to last 12 hours. Oh my gosh. Because if they just keep talking, you're going to do weird shit. You're going to get comfortable. You're going to get into character of who you really are more than, what you're trying to project to somebody. So they keep talking to her and then they eventually land on, so what do you think we should do next? Like, if, we found this leg and Robert is missing and you have no idea what's happening in your mind, what would be our next step? And she's like, well, your next step would probably be to keep searching my property, right? And like, look in the pig pen for anything else, like clothing or other body parts. So, like, who the fuck says that?
Oh my gosh.
I would, if you didn't do it, I would be like, I don't know. You're probably going to search everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Like a person, so like
it's like, yeah, I joke about bodies in my pig pen. So the next step is probably check the pig pen.
We check the pig pen. So then she goes into complaining about her neighbors because they have been complaining to the county about her. And some of these complaints were called because of her and Robert fighting, how loud they were, how vicious it sounded. So like the cops would call, and that all of the stress of this had made her really sick, and all of her hair fell out, which it did. She has no eyebrows. She's completely bald, like 100%.
Oh my gosh.
Like alopecia totalis, completely. And so she has like extreme anxiety about her appearance because she's completely bald, and she has like a little beanie on while they're talking. And obviously this is to try to get like sympathy from them because like as a woman that's hard, Yeah. And I love it because they ignore everything, not even like, oh, that's a shame. They move right past it. They're like, you're not getting that from us. And then they ask her, hey, do your pigs ever eat any animals? And like other animals, like, would you kill a chicken and feed them to your pigs? Like, would you do that? Because like, as we know, it's never been a problem with me yet, but I will occasionally just throw the egg on the ground, let the chickens eat it. So the thing is, if your animal has already gotten the taste of flesh, it's likely to do that. So she asks them, have they ever eaten any animals? And she says, no, never. But that she has fed them, like she'll feed them the leftover like bones from bone broth and stuff like that, which pigs can eat bones, which is weird. But, obviously that's not good for anybody. Now, this entire time, something that she does, which I hate because it's just like the sounds constantly, I'm listening to this. She does these huge sighs, like just like,
oh, really?
And it's like so long and annoying because she just does them constantly. And the thing is, part of that is like when you get anxious, you don't get as much oxygen because your blood pressure, your heart rate are higher. We therefore tend to take in more air. So that could be what she's doing. But she always is sighing and stuttering through all of her words. And as the investigation, but she's been talked to for a really long time with not very many breaks. But just her demeanor is getting weird. And the constant sighing is like a tell. If you're playing poker and you sigh, you probably got a crap hand.
Yeah.
So he tells her, Detective Fox is the one that's taken over at this point. He's like, we're going to search your entire property. We're going to find whatever anyway. Your best bet is to just tell us now because it can shorten the time that it takes us and you can make it a lot faster. So she pauses for such a long time that like we've talked about this one time where like it doesn't really seem like it, but 10 seconds of solid silence is a lot.
Yeah.
So she goes completely dead silent. And he keeps trying to, he's gotten to the point where they've never been mean to her. And so they're like, look, sometimes things happen. Like accidents happen, mistakes happen. You're human. People make mistakes. Did Robert make a mistake? Like, did something happen? And she hasn't said anything through this. I don't even think she did that ridiculous sigh, but she has been completely silent. And she asks a single question, and quote, if my pigs did eat Robert, would you kill my pigs?
What?
So she has like more regard for a pig than a human. Okay. She has seemed to not give a crap that Robert has been missing at all. And they're like, what? So Detective Fox, he's stunned, you can tell. And he's just like, we're going to we'll figure that out later. Like, I don't know. I'm not, I don't work for animal control. So, I'm really not sure. So he asks her again, like, why don't you just tell us what happens? This is really important. So she lets out several big, long sighs. And it sounds like that. Like, that's the thing that bothers me is because they're so, even her sighs are weird because they're just like, and it's just constantly. So she lets out a few of those weird sighs and she starts her conversation to their answer to this question. She says about a week or so after Bobby, who's Robert's son, had called looking for his dad, and they had came out and checked. she had gotten up early in the morning like we do. My chickens know feeding is like 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
To go feed the animals and go about her day, and that she heard a groaning, moaning kind of a sound in the back. And so when she went to the back to the pig pen area, she saw Robert lying on his back, and all of his insides were on the outsides, and the pigs were eating him.
Alive? Like
alive. He was still alive. And that the pigs were eating him. And she freaked out. She says she ran inside. She grabbed her rifle and she came back and she shot him in the head to end what she said, was his suffering. Mm-hmm. And the cops were like, what the hell? Like, why would you not call 911? And she's like, we're out in the middle of nowhere. It would have been at least a half an hour solid for him to get help. Yeah. And she could tell like the amount of blood, like he's on his way out. And so she panicked. And so she shot him. So, the problem is that she has like discrepancies in her story, but stranger things have happened. 1 in a million freak accidents, happen. So they're like, oh my God, okay. Would you agree to take a polygraph test? And so she agrees to that. And so they start up the whole polygraph. The investigator for the polygraph test comes in. And he's very friendly with her and they're talking. And she's like more than willing to talk to them.
Okay.
So they get her all hooked up to do the machine. He asks her, like, have you ever done one of these before? And she was like, yeah, I have. And he asks her when. And she's like, I can't remember. And then she's like, oh, well, it was probably like 40 years ago when she was in the Navy. And so he's like, oh, what was it for? And she was like, I can't remember.
You don't remember what you
like
had?
That's pretty serious. Like, that's some probably important information. And so anyway, so even though she has been told to hold still, to be quiet, because that's
let me
important
guess, the whole time.
Yep. The entire time she is coughing, sniffling. She's moving in her seat. She's doing those huge sighs. She has a conversation with him after I'm talking my breath out. I'm all mad. After he just told her to please be quiet.
Yeah.
He does the test 2 times and she will not hold still.
Oh my God.
And he finally is like, we're not doing another. I absolutely refuse. And she's like, no, I'll do it. And he's like, no, I'm done.
She's just wasting time
and energy and resources. He's like, no. So he still sits with her. And he keeps talking to her. But even within all the fuss, it shows markers of deception in her questions. So obviously, if you don't know, I guess not obviously, polygraphs aren't allowed to be used in court because they are not accurate all the time. They can be helpful. They can be helpful because the cops can be like, we know you lied about this. Yeah. But they aren't able to be used, but it did show that she had lied a little bit within the bits that they were able to get with her fussing and nonsense. So the investigator of the polygraph test has asked her, because he is a police officer, he's asked her to finish, just finish explaining how she got rid of him. And she says that she ended up leaving his body with the pigs for 2 days to let them eat. And they asked her, were you hoping that they were going to eat all of him? And she was like, yeah, but after 2 days, I couldn't look at it anymore. Yeah. I didn't. And also the meat was going to go bad. She didn't want her pigs to get sick. Yeah. And so she took his clothes and the rest of him out of the pig pen, and she burned his clothes in a burn barrel pile she has, and put the rest of his pieces in bags and just put it in the back of the property. They didn't eat the skull, and obviously that piece of leg. Yeah. And just little bits. It really wasn't that much. Yeah. And so she draws them. She asked them, she's like, here, I'll draw you a map, Yeah. She's like, whatever.
Yeah, 'cause that's 20 acres. It's a lot of
So
area.
She draws them a map, it for sure is, on a piece of paper. And so they're still trying to get a justified reason from her. They're trying to give her that possibility. And she's like not taking it. You know, they asked her, did he try to attack you? Did he steal from you? Did he?
Yeah, you just want a reason. Like, what? Why?
Mm-hmm. And she's like, no. She has stuck by her story that he must have, that he had to have fallen in, that he was just messing around and he had to have fallen in, and that he could have been drunk because he did drink a lot.
Yeah.
And so like maybe he was just messing around with the dumb pigs and fell in drunk, but you know. So yeah, so she is stuck by her story, and they're asking her like, look, you've drawn us a map for this part because we're going to investigate the whole property. Like, is anyone out there? Like, now is the time to tell us. And she says, not to my knowledge.
What?
It's your 20 acres. You're outside all the time. How would you not know? But, you know, I don't know. Not to your knowledge. Somebody could have dropped a body. I don't know. And they're like, what? How could you not know? So they're going around. They're still asking. They move back a little bit. She tells them she thinks Robert was depressed and his drinking had gotten really out of control after, you know, he had heard about the assault, because he didn't leave right away.
Okay.
And so she's obviously trying to drop hints that he tried to kill himself by climbing in the.
Who
would do that?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Eat me alive. That's the way I want to go. Like, no.
It's so funny, but it's just like
it's
so
so
ridiculous.
Stupid. It's like,
really
who would do that?
Yeah.
I want to die a slow and painful death, being eaten alive by pigs.
By huge, scary pigs.
Yeah.
So, at one point, she was talking about how, you know, she couldn't leave the pigs out there for longer because it wouldn't have been good for the pigs eating them.
Yeah.
But the way she had started this story, that phrasing again was, in quote, I could have left them. Them. Like, now I kind of understand that, like, if you didn't know a person, like using a they, them. Yeah. They were over there. I left them.
Yeah.
But she knows Robert
knows
for 6 months. That's a weird way
Not
to
even
phrase
him,
that. Yep. No, I could have left them. And then she immediately stutters and backtracks with, I could have left him, with an emphasis on the him part. Like, she caught what she said, right?
Maybe she's done it before.
So Detective Henderson, he gets like a lot more gentle with her, and he actually like leans forward and he has his hand like on the desk and like a kind of comforting, and he's like, just tell me the whole truth. Right now is the time to be honest. It's been like 9 hours. You got to give us a break. And she says again, quote, oh God, give me another piece of paper. There's part of another body. His name is Steve.
What? Oh my gosh.
So the cops are immediately like, what? So here's the story. Stephen Delicino was 59. He had been working and living there, and he went missing just the year before.
Oh.
Just like a lot of other ones that she had, he showed up for work out of the blue, responding to one of the ads. Like, he didn't even email her. He just came.
Showed up.
And that was normal. And that was normal. And unfortunately, no one had come looking for him. He didn't really have anybody. He was he had a record of stealing and drug, you know, DUIs and things like that. And she said that he had been stealing guns and little things around her home. And then when he said he was going to leave, she confronted him inside of her house. And that's when he took one of the guns. It was just like a little pistol and only had like a little tiny barrel. It's weird how some of those like self-defense guns are so little and just ridiculous looking. And so they were fighting, and he pulls this gun out. And he says he didn't want to go to jail again. And so he shot himself in the head. Which, I mean, yeah, that could happen. That could absolutely happen. And you're like, okay. But in kind of asking, like, this doesn't make any sense, she goes back and they're like, he shot himself right there in your bedroom? And she was like, yeah. So they're expecting, like, okay, we're going to find this dude's blood in her room bedroom somewhere. But then she changes her story again. And she says that he, like, shot himself while he was running out of the house. And then she changes her story again. And he shot himself in the head 5 times.
5 times? Yes. Does she not know how shooting yourself in the head
and
works?
I'm sorry, it's not funny. It is so
stupid.
dumb. And so they're like, what, bitch?
Right.
And they're like, how does that even happen? And she's like, well, we're still fighting and he's trying to shoot himself in the head. Now, is this possible? Yeah. So
Maybe.
it's like grazing. If it, there have been people who have gotten giant poles slammed through their head and they live from side entry and exit. But yeah, so they're fighting and he's trying to, I'm pantomiming, holding like my finger gun and like spinning my finger, and it's like spinning it around my head because that's what she's saying has happened.
Okay.
She's got his arm here. Yeah. And he shot himself 5 times in the head.
Okay.
So they're like, okay.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Sure.
What did you do with the rest of the body? And so she says that she actually left it with the pigs for 2 weeks this time. Oh. So obviously she doesn't give a shit about food safety.
No.
Like she doesn't care.
No.
Like she said, right?
Yeah.
So
because she said what, 2 days?
2 days. I highly doubt she left him there for 2 days. She was trying to get rid of as much evidence as possible because in 2 days, and all that was left supposedly of Robert was a leg and some skull and some bits and I almost said bits and bobs. I'm sorry, Lord. Bits and
name's
bobs
Robert.
of Robert. I know. That's why I was like, I almost said bits and bobs. I wasn't trying to be funny.
No.
So, sorry. So she left him there for about 2 weeks, and she said she buried what was left with some other of the dead animals that she has processed.
Okay.
In a hole, because I've thought about that before. Like, what do you do with that? I guess you'd probably have like a death trench for like carcasses and stuff. So. This is where this makes me so irritated because we've talked about stuff like this before. So apparently her neighbors, I'm almost positive her neighbor's name was Karen. She had a Karen neighbor.
Okay.
One of her neighbors saw her burying bones in a hole.
Okay.
And they had called the cops. Police showed up, and probably because of her friggin' weirdness, police showed up and they were like, what are you doing? And she was like, oh, I'm burying carcasses. You want a shovel to help me? And he said no, and he left.
Didn't even look?
He didn't even look.
She
said they were 2 feet under the ground. 2 feet. Wow. If he literally took her up on her offer, but she was just so weird, and I don't understand that at all. Literally, pieces of Steven were in that hole, and the cop was like, nope. Do better. Come on.
Seriously.
So, fucking Oregon. Doesn't surprise me. So, she had known Steven for about 5 years, and he was wanting to leave to California. This is what she's told them. Okay. And that he also has a property down in Florida, like a little house. And that, so he was ready to be done with the West Coast, and he wanted to leave to California. Now, of course, both Robert and Steven's pictures will both be on the Instagram because, they're part of the main people in this case. I don't know if you remember, but Robert was like 56 and Steven was 59. They look so similar.
Oh, really?
They do. Now, here is the weirdness. Not like any of this isn't freaking weird. But this is what's crazy to me is they both look so similar. They were both nearly the same age. They died in 1 in a million, like kind of a freak accident, supposedly. Yeah. And that when both of these men had had enough of her weird bullshit and they wanted to leave, they died.
Yeah.
So I'm like, was she like in love with these dudes? And then she just didn't want to be alone. Like, it's weird because the thing is she's not alone.
No.
She always has people. So that's weird. But they look so similar. It's crazy. Weird. Chops, mustaches, brown hair. It's nuts. So kind of looks like she might have a type.
Okay.
So investigators are still pushing. They're like, seriously, out of the last like 20-ish years that you've been hiring help, there's been like 100 drifter type of people come through, and you expect us to believe that there's only these 2 people. But she doesn't buckle. She says that, that's it. And she stands by her story the whole time. She says that, that was it. So after being held for questioning, obviously they were digging up the evidence. The interesting part is that they had, I'm pretty sure, already found like Steven's skull or something. Okay. They knew. And so then she had confessed to it. Okay. So they were already pretty sure
that there was another
like amount of decomposition between the two that it was not the same. So she's like officially arrested for this on January 14th. of 2014 for 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts abuse of a corpse. Why didn't the people in the Dirty Body Brokers get that?
Yeah, seriously.
2, I guess that's a spoiler alert if somehow you heard this before the other one.
We're behind.
2 counts abuse of a corpse and 1 count of identity theft. They didn't leave it out.
Yeah.
So while she is being held, she hasn't gone to trial yet. Her pigs are all euthanized, which is so sad. It's not their fault. And they made sure to tell her. I think that's pretty dirty.
Oh, really? Well, didn't she ask? Well, she kind of said, like, if they did eat, then kill them.
Yeah. So she definitely found out about that, which is messed up. But the crazy part, I keep saying that, but the thing that she's most upset about is that they're digging holes in her property.
Oh, please.
And that they're going to mess it up because, like, she's so deluded. Like, she thinks maybe she's not going to go to jail or something. So when she finds out that her pigs was euthanized, she tells them that there's 17 other people buried on the property.
What?
But after all the holes were dug, they found no evidence of that.
Okay.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God.
I know. I was like, is there going to be a part 2?
Yeah, no. They had in total dug 50 really huge holes. It took them over a month, and I cannot imagine how much money.
Oh my gosh.
And so they were like, she just said it to piss us off.
Yeah.
To just
waste their time and
because it's all she could do. And it was like a form of control she could have over that part, which is so fucked up.
It is.
Not that all of this isn't. So, she, of course, ended up, she pleaded not guilty, and she represented herself.
Of course she did.
Acted a fool. She ended up being removed from the courtroom multiple times from being nuts. One of the things that they picked on her about, which I think it's mean. It's so stupid because I'm like, are they going to do that to someone else? They made fun of the fact that she had wore multiple wigs. They weren't crazy. They were like an auburn one, a short-haired one.
But
like,
her hair changed every day.
So I only saw 2 pictures of separate, but they made it seem like she had a few.
Yeah.
So, but it was just one of the weird things was that she ended up with like all these wig changes and stuff. But in the end, no evidence matched up to her. None of the evidence could match up properly. It all matched up to too much lying, too much hiding, too much bullshit. So although this doesn't seem like much, you have to remember she's 67 years old.
Oh, yeah.
So she was sentenced to 2 consecutive 25-year prison terms with no possibility of parole. So it was the best they could do because technically there was no witness. It was very hard, but they're like, come on now.
Yeah.
Really? You admitted to feeding a dead dude to pigs, and there's bullet holes in this one dude. Oh, I'm so sorry. It ended up being 4 times in the head. She shot him 4 times in the head.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. For whatever had happened.
Yeah.
He shot himself, whatever.
He shot himself 4
allegedly.
times.
Yeah. Oh. So, unless she lives to be 117,
yeah,
she's going to spend the rest of her life in prison. But unfucking believable.
It's crazy.
And yeah, it's also crazy. Okay, so here's something super funny. When I went up for the wedding of one of my best friends, Kurt, my husband, came with me. And when we were driving back to the airport, a friend was driving us. He was like, now I know why there's Northwest, because for 2.5 hours, it was literally
like
nothing but forest.
Yeah.
Scary. Like, if you drop off the road, you're going to die. Like, there's not guardrails. And that's where I grew up, you know? And I mean, there were a lot up there, all the way up through Washington, because it is so easy. It's sick. It's so easy to hide stuff out there. If she hadn't used his fucking Oregon Trail card.
Yeah.
If she hadn't used that card, they never would have figured it out.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah, because the only reason that the body was found was because they went and... Wow.
The last one, the body brokers, was because of taxes, and that one was because of fraud. See, people? No, but I was so messed up. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I knew right away when you said a leg was found by the pigs. I'm like, she killed him and put him in the pig pen.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought, I never heard anything about Brady. There is nothing. Obviously, he fucking knew.
Yeah, he knew about it.
He knew.
So
what I'm thinking is that possibly, because he's like her closest friend, what if he was her one call?
Yeah.
And he's drunk all the time. Nothing. He was obviously, there's something with him in that
or
video.
He was there when the body was in with the pigs.
So
like,
the
what
thing
the
was,
happened?
when this first started, I mean, I had never heard of this before, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
There's a movie we should watch. It's called The Pig Lady.
Oh, okay.
And it's like a horror movie.
Oh, okay.
They made like based off of it, but yeah, it was weird.
Wow.
Like I first thought, like I was like, maybe she didn't, because a woman on a farm all alone. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, I thought this was going to go a different way.
I did too.
Yeah.
And I still think like Brady had something to do with it, but because she did not mention she didn't. And I mean, if you were going to lie, you'd probably try to put it on someone else if you were already lying so much. So I really don't think he had anything to do with it, but she had to have told him.
Yeah.
In some capacity.
Or like I said, or he like could have seen it, you know, exactly. Like come in one of those 2 days and saw the body in there with the pigs. And
or
like,
he was just stumbling around drunk and saw the leg and was like,
I'm out of here. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
Wow. That was crazy. Kind of gross.
Yeah.
Especially because like I used to have a pig and I'm thinking about Hank like eating a body. Ugh.
Well, if you like the movie Snatch, one of the bad guys talks about that. He's like, he even gives like the measurements and stuff of how fast a pig can go.
That's crazy.
When you have a bunch of pigs. And I was like, who found that out?
Isn't that, I doubt they have that at the body farm. The place where they have the bodies in like cages for decomposition for forensic purposes, you know.
Yeah. I think probably the most they would do is, I'm sure, along the body brokering, somebody probably could donate their body and it would probably get used like, let's throw it to let's like throw it out to a pack of coyotes and see what it looks like when they take pieces.
So you can identify whether it was animal or human, you know.
Exactly, like just animal scattering
like,
bits.
Yeah. Wow.
I think it's really odd because, like, fun fact, you know, a lot more animals than people think eat roadkill.
Yeah.
And so like owls eat roadkill. You know, most animals will. Like, they'll try it if they're desperate enough. Yep. Okay.
I have chills now.
That's gross.
Because I was like thinking, you know, once they taste blood, that was our dog Fred. Before I had, he's okay. We don't have Fred anymore. We had to rehome him because, for safety reasons, because he killed some of our chickens, and then it was like the day I came home from the hospital with Lincoln, and he had killed another chicken. And so he kept killing chickens, and he did have a little bit of an aggression issue, and we just knew it was not safe with Lincoln. I could not imagine, like, he would nip at us and stuff. And so yeah, we found him at home, and we were like, no chickens or little kids. Like, he's just not that type of dog. But yeah, once he got the taste of chickens once, it's like he kept killing them because, you know, they would just get out. So yeah, I can imagine
they'll do it if they're bored.
Yeah.
It's sad.
I think he was probably acting out. I don't know. But it was like the third or fourth chicken he had killed. And we're like, we're done. Like, you are not. And then here we have like Ralph and Harrison, you know, our two. Well, we had
like a bully breed, technically.
Yeah, they are. They're American Staffordshire Terrier and boxer shepherd. Like, you know. Anyways.
Well, that's a herding dog. They're less likely to eat the animal.
But they go out in the backyard and hang out with the chickens. Yeah. They not once have tried to kill them.
Rolling chicken poop.
Rabbits is a different thing. Harrison has killed a rabbit before, but that was a freak accident when the cage,
sure it was, Amy.
No, it was the wiring in the back of the
rabbit fell. Sorry.
The back of the rabbit hutch thing, the wiring came out because they were running around so much in there, and so the two of them got out, and then Harrison, it was at night, and so yeah, that was the only time. But now it's like there's absolutely no way those rabbits can get out the way we have their big metal cages. But
yeah,
it's like with the dog, like, and
the thing is too is like it's not their fault.
No,
and so it's very hard because, like, obviously you can't like discipline them for that. I'll see people in the chicken group that, oh my god, they're like, tie the dead chicken to the dog's neck and let the chicken rot. I was like, what? That is abuse. Wrong with you?
Yeah. Like, no, I'm so happy that my dogs don't care about the chickens. They run around. They could care less. And like I said, all my chickens are free range. So
Binks likes to chase the chickens.
I know.
But he likes to punk them. Like if I really thought he was going to hurt them, I wouldn't let him do it. But he'll just be like in the grass, and then he does a little butt wiggle, and he like
takes
boom.
off. Yeah,
he just jumps at him.
Because I'll be in the backyard, and then I hear the chickens, and I'm like,
Binks.
oh, Binks.
Yeah, Binks got him.
So, Well, anyways, I guess with that, stay crafty
and not cry me.
Bye.
Bye.